C News podcast. With us we have Tony, who is from Jamaica, but has been living in Poland for 10 years. And today we will discuss the topic of migration. You yourself have migrated to Poland, and in Europe in general in the past few decades, we have seen a lot of migration. And in 2015, the topic really exploded with the so-called European migration crisis associated with the war in Syria, and later on with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel and her decision to say willkommen, or welcome in German. From an outsider's perspective, what do you think about Europe's internal debate about migration? Is it healthy? Is it inflammatory? How does the rest of the world look at this topic?
Yeah, so the debate here in Europe, I guess when it comes to immigrants coming to Europe in general, we can see that mass immigration, I would say, it is a problem that the leaders in Brussels, that they seem to be promoting, this taking large amounts of people from one place, bringing them here, and essentially providing for them. And
it seems that they entered this path many years ago, and that they're a little bit reluctant to admit failures and mistakes into their policies. But at the same time, migration isn't just what has been how it has been portrayed mainly in recent years, with these migrants coming from Africa and the Middle East. To Europe, we have migration from across the world. There is also migration from East Asia. We have Filipino migrants, we have Thai migrants, we have Indians. There is a lot of labor migration coming as well. And you yourself, working at a corporation here in Warsaw, I assume that your workplace must be quite multicultural in that sense.
Yes, but there is a difference, right? There is this, where I work, it's IT. It's pretty international. People come from all over. Everyone's seeking opportunities. They're coding. Let's say it's a universal language. Doesn't matter where you're from. If you speak English and you are,
if you've learned how to code,
then you can get by, right? So this, I would say, is a bit different than mass migration, than what we see, the boatloads, coming over
the illegal migration.
Coming over to Lampedusa, let's say, from across the strait. Yeah, this is very unfortunate to see these things from both perspectives. From the perspective of the people who leave their house because in those regions because of the situation there, and then they come here to Europe, and then they also create some problems because it's totally different culture, different way of life. There is very little assimilation happening in most cases. So there's different.
When you speak to Poles, or in general over these 10 years or so, have you noticed, do the general Pole know about the differences between this labor migration, skilled migration, and the illegal migration that is coming to Europe? Or does the average person on the streets just think it's all one and the same?
To an extent, I think they do understand, right? That to work in a corporation, you have to have like a certain background, and that this just wouldn't be like a random person off the street. But then, of course, there is always this sense of foreigners taking our job type of thing, right? So I think we see this everywhere. But in Poland, we don't really see much of it, right? When it comes to this mass migration, maybe now.
It's become a little bit of an issue with the EU's plans on introducing quota migrants to certain countries. But as you mentioned, it has not been a destination for those people who do land on these dinghies in Lampedusa or the Canary Islands. very, very few, if practically any of them, turn up in Warsaw 6 months later after arriving. They usually go to France, the UK, or Spain, or Italy. You also spent a couple of months during your studies on an Erasmus visit to Spain. You've been traveling around in Europe, visiting France, the UK. What would you say are your impressions? Is there this divide that goes more or less along the old Iron Curtain, that you have more of these migrants in the western part and less of them here in the east? Is this something that is palpable or that you can sense?
Yes, this is something that's like clearly visible. I would say the more east you go, the less likely you're to encounter these migrants. And yeah, as you said, in England, in Belgium, you see them everywhere. They're clearly visible. That not just in the workforce, but also that when it comes to say the homeless factor, just out in the streets. Then
it has to be said though that even here in Eastern Europe, things are changing. Whether it's Budapest, Bucharest, or Warsaw for that matter, there is more and more migration coming here as well. In the case of Warsaw itself, we have seen a lot of migration recently from the old Soviet Union, whether Belarusian migrants after the 2020 political unrest there in connection with the presidential election, the war in Ukraine naturally, but also here in Warsaw, for example, if you take an Uber, then you're quite likely to get a driver that could be from anywhere in Central Asia, from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, or any other of these countries. Over your 10 years here, is this something that you have noticed, that you can hear, for example, more Russian on the street than previously?
Yes, when it comes definitely things like Uber, there is definitely, and like Uber Eats is this food delivery in general. This is like dominated by foreigners from Central Asia, subcontinent. When it comes to other nationalities here, of course, we saw the first wave of Ukrainians. Basically, my second year here in 2013, 2014, there was an influx, and now, of course,
and a few years later, we had a lot of Indians arriving as well.
Yes, and then the Indians came, and now also, we see, for example, the other groups like Ethiopians. There is a large community appeared here in Warsaw recently. And of course, because of the war, the Ukrainians here are now pretty dominant. And yes, you do hear Russian more and more. There is definitely this a shift, right? We see.
And when it comes to these Indians that have immigrated in recent years, more and more of them are taking high-value jobs as well. It's not just Uber Eats anymore, but in these tech companies, whether it's Microsoft or any other American or Asian tech company that has established itself. If we look in front of these skyscrapers where they have their offices, and downstairs usually you have a group of people smoking, you see a lot of Indians. They seem to have come in and taken a lot of place in the tech industry.
Yes, they are quite skilled. They have English on their side, so they can communicate. And usually in these international companies, English is the language of the company. So then they can just fit into that very easily. And they come to study. There are a lot of them here in private universities. We see a lot of them. They're pursuing business degrees, marketing degrees, but also a lot of tech. And the thing is that in Poland the jobs are here, the companies are here. They're moving here because not just, of course, because in Poland a lot of the Polish people themselves, they speak English. They're good developers. This is like one of the careers that every kid in Poland wants to be, is a developer. So there is a highly skilled workforce here, and that brings jobs with it, and people are able to compete for them and get them. Right. So if it's
It also has to be said that a lot of Poles themselves have migrated in the past years, maybe a little bit less recently, but after Poland joined the EU, we had millions of Poles that actually left for whether Ireland, the UK, Germany, Scandinavia, the Netherlands, and many other countries. And currently, the unemployment rate in Poland is very low, and simply the labor market is desperate for more workers. So migration is one of the solutions that these companies have found. When it comes to these more skilled, you work yourself in the IT sector. Is this something that you can hear sometimes bosses complaining about, that there aren't enough programmers? They need more people to work?
Yeah, there are a lot of open positions here in Warsaw. A lot. The demand is high for skilled workers. So, and they take them where they can find them. You know, if they're here, then it's best. But you know, we have heard stories of people coming from abroad to work in a Polish company.
Yeah,
sometimes they also have like sister companies in India, let's say, or in other parts of the world, and then they open a hub here, which then they bring some of the workers with them.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be a trend that is growing. A lot of these companies are using various agencies to try to find these talents abroad, and it looks like it is becoming a resource that companies are more and more competing for. So it looks like this is a trend that will go on for the future. Thank you very much for coming on and discussing these topics with us.
Thank you.